Welcome to Underqualified Thoughts, where two brothers-in-law have conversations stemming from their daily lives. Expect authentic, relationship-building discussions that time capsule the early years of these podcasters' families, careers, and pastimes.
Welcome to Underqualified Thoughts. In this episode, we have a special guest joining us, Kendall. Say hello.
Hello.
Kendall is my wife's childhood best friend and is our biggest fan, and at times has been our only fan of the podcast. We invited Kendall on the show to share her thoughts and critiques about Season 1 of Underqualified Thoughts. I'm sure there'll be many. And if you stick with us until the end, you'll get to hear about the most embarrassing thing that's happened to Caleb maybe ever.
It's a high possibility. As an avid listener, Kendall brings a unique perspective and valuable insights to the table. And so we're really excited to have her share her thoughts and feedback. And we really hope that this episode will not only provide an opportunity for her to share her opinions, but also serve as a chance for us to learn and grow as a podcast, especially as we're at the end of the year. So thank you guys for tuning in. And we do listen. We do look forward to hearing Kendall's critique of Underqualified Thoughts.
You ready, Kendall?
I'm ready. Let's pot it out.
It was kind of a big deal. Not only was that this is the first time we have a guest on the show, this is the first time we actually have notes in front of us that we are reading aloud. And the first time we started recording and immediately stopped because I didn't pronounce a word correctly in the first sentence.
It's true.
But they don't need to know about that. As I already mentioned, we have notes in front of us, and Caleb said at this point I can ad-lib, which is why I've just been rambling for the past minute. And now to get back to the point of the show, Kendall, first question, are you going to listen to this?
That's actually a good question. I don't know. I might.
See,
I don't like listening to myself.
This is a big problem. We brought our number one listener, who's listened to every single episode, to bring her onto an episode, and now we might have no one listen to this episode because she's not going to listen to it.
Okay, no,
Sad.
I will. But
I mean, I'm not trying to twist your arm. I'm just letting you know, like, we're trying to be a for-profit hobby here, and we've already lost our...
The only way that we're going to get more listeners through this is by her sharing it with people that she might want to have listen to what she has to say.
Is this just a bait and switch? Like, get Kendall involved so she shares it with her friends and this grows?
Yeah, stop the attrition now.
Okay. So then, I guess the first question before we dive into who you are as a person, why are you listening to our podcast?
That's actually another good question. I briefly told Caleb this at lunch today. I have had people that I know personally do podcasts, and I cannot listen to them. Like, it makes me cringe. I can't do it. It's terrible. But for some reason, it's not the case with you guys.
It was a big deal.
I don't know if it's because...
We're not bad.
Well, I don't know if it's because you both married, like, two of my best friends, so I just, like, have this obligation.
Connection.
Yeah, I don't know. But I genuinely like listening to it. So I don't know if that's it or... I don't know.
Every now and again, I see the group text that Kendall's in with our wives and Kendall's sister, and we get some shout-outs. And then Kami just rolls her eyes because she doesn't listen. And then Brittany just wonders when she's going to get her shout-out. And then Caitlin rolls her eyes too. Good job coughing away from the microphone, Caleb. So that's a high honor that we're not cringy. And we'll have you today help us become a more elevated, more put-together podcast. Maybe one that maybe have a host that doesn't cough this early in the beginning. I can cut this. But yeah, basically we're going to have you help us become more put-together while keeping us down to earth so we aren't cringy.
Cool.
So, before we get into that, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you from? What do you do? What's your purpose? Oof. Why do you care about life?
Good gosh.
All of those questions that you can think of.
Something my therapist would ask.
This is therapy. This is podcast therapy.
Okay, obviously you've already said my name. I have known both of your wives my literal entire life. We grew up together. And have continued to grow up together. Job-wise, I'm probably the most underqualified person here with my job.
Huge.
I'm an accountant, and I dropped out of college. So
let's go. This is perfect.
And I presume this wasn't the Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates dropout, like you're not a millionaire?
No, not a millionaire, not even close. I have a associate's degree and just like general education, and then went to a 4-year
Well, that makes
university.
sense. You generally educated yourself how to be an accountant.
Not at all. Actually, accounting was the class that made me drop out of university. So full circle. Went to a 4-year university, wanted to make money instead, thought college was not for me. So that then started my, I guess, job search. And I was actually thinking about this the other day. I think I've had a job in every, like, category. Like,
Rattle them off.
childcare, food, retail, medical, and now I'm in finance / construction because I'm an accountant for a construction company. So yeah.
So you're both the most well-rounded and least qualified person in the room.
Yeah, it makes me tell other people, like, hey, I can do whatever I want because I've been
Look at this resume. I can do anything.
literally everywhere. So yeah, that's basically it. I'm now an accountant for a construction company. I've been doing that since February, so still pretty brief. I left a 4-year career as a pharmacy technician and jumped to accountant, which was really scary and crazy, but here I am.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Now, the last question I have before we go into our scripted ones is, which was more nerve-wracking, being on this podcast or jumping to accounting?
100% jumping to accounting.
I was hoping we were going to get her.
No, I'm so sorry. So sorry. It was the most nerve-wracking thing ever.
You know, I think this is a interesting thing. Underqualified thoughts. In some regard, like, everyone that lives at some point is obviously underqualified for whatever they do. For Andy and I, it's at the moment entering a new career. In small ways, it's the podcast. For you, it was accounting. And for the listeners who listened to the one last week about...
Shout out to your mom and Kendall.
Yeah. For those that listen to that, they know that we are underqualified in making a podcast and making it more structured and having it be something people want to listen to. And so as we enter the new year, I think it's a solid idea to just have that critique, and that's why we're here. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that first question of regarding the podcast. What did you like about it? And if you don't mind sharing, what specifically stood out to you?
Let's see.
Caleb's commercials.
Yeah, again, I don't know if it's because of your connection with McCamey and Caitlin. I just genuinely like listening. So, like, I think you guys are funny. I think, like, there's a little bit of my personality in each of you. Like, me and Andy both share, like, the same humor and, like, sarcasm. And I think me and Caleb just more of, like, the mild demeanor of, like, needing structure. So, like, I don't know if maybe that's why I like listening to it, too. But, yeah, I think, too, what stands out is, I don't know, like, I guess just the genuine honesty that you have of, like, the struggles and the questions that you have of, you know, I mean, whatever you're talking about, whether it's your job, the interviews, or whatever. So, I don't know if that makes sense.
That's
good.
Have more struggles, have better podcasts. That's the
Be
formula.
more honest and
Honestly,
vulnerable.
after that, we need to have Kendall just, like, in our pockets as our hype woman at all times.
Listen,
So
I'm
can't
the
tell you how many,
best hype woman ever.
I can't tell you how many times I tell a joke and Caitlin doesn't laugh. It's terrible.
I am the greatest hype woman, so if you need me.
That's huge. That's what Kendall will be our first hire. She'll be underqualified as an editor, and we'll hire her as editor of the podcast once we blow up.
I would do it.
Yeah, we know.
I would do it.
Yeah, you would also solicit money from our listeners.
Hey guys, wait, we'll get to that later.
We'll get to that later.
Okay.
So, just then to point out some of the things that were highlights or could have not been highlights. What did you think about Caleb's commercials? That little foray he had in the beginning of season 1.
Okay, well, the first time I heard it, so I typically listen, if he puts it on Monday, I typically listen to it on my way home from work. And the first time I heard that podcast, I was pulling into the commercial. I was pulling into my driveway. I, like, literally started laughing out loud and, like, texted Caleb immediately. And I was like, what was that. I thought it was so funny. I like their commercials. I think they're hilarious. But I know Andy hates them.
Yeah, I just had to bring this up because if we had to epitomize season 1 outside of the terrible audio quality, the canon of season 1 would be highlighted by Caleb trying to make commercials by cutting up my audio to make it sound like I like Pam's coffee.
It was good.
I think he had a fun time with it.
To be fair, I told him he needed to make a commercial for rock climbing so you would feel special.
That'd be huge.
It never happened.
Nope.
No, it didn't.
Okay.
Should it happen in
trust
the
me,
next?
we know it never happened.
Should it happen in the next season?
Yeah, I think so.
More
Basically,
commercials?
we need to do
I'm on
it
for it.
until we get big enough that
We shouldn't.
we get a sponsor.
That's
Until
so
we get a
funny.
sponsor, we make our own commercials.
That's funny.
So then the next question is, what aspects of the podcast did you find frustrating or confusing, or maybe you had to rewind and be like, what just happened?
First of all, the coin.
I'm sorry.
It was not
Are
a
the
coin.
coins still
was it
there?
a coin?
No, it was a coin.
Oh, that's right.
Because-
you thought it was a ring and
Yeah.
it was a quarter.
It was a quarter.
I clocked it the first time he did it. And I
No.
thought, okay, it's probably just a one-time thing. I don't even know what it was. And then I kept hearing it. And then I heard them scatter everywhere. And so I immediately texted him. And I was like, who has the coin? Who has it? Like, which one of you decided it'd be a good idea to sit and just flip a coin while you have a podcast?
And it was Caleb.
And it was Caleb. I was so annoyed the entire time. That is super frustrating.
It is what it is.
But you live and you learn. You're obviously underqualified for it. So now you know not to do that.
Were there any other horrible audio moments? I can list like 10, but
I mean, other than the podcast or the commercial running through the audio, that was pretty rough.
I missed that completely.
good one.
Yeah, that was rough.
I
I
missed
was
it
really
completely.
confused at first what was happening. And then I was like, ugh.
And for Caleb, for context, for those who are just tuning in now, Caleb put in a commercial and didn't cut out our audio. So the audio of us talking and the audio of
Over
the
the
commercial
Honestly,
were going
I-
over top each other.
The same file, like, I just didn't remove it. Like, the way I do things, I use the same file. Anyway.
That'll be part of your. If you get hired as an editor, we'll give you a trick or a problem like that you have to solve.
Oof. Or
Big.
instead of hiring me as an editor, you just make me your third co-host.
Wow.
Wow,
You need a little
she's coming
diversity.
for us.
On the podcast.
We'll see. Oh, we
Wow.
thought we were going to put her on the spot. She put us on the spot.
I know. So,
This third question, I feel like she's already answered.
I think so. I'm going to go ahead and skip to the fourth
Which
one.
the third question was just how we contribute to the experience of the
Yeah.
show, and more or less, our show right now is us. It's not like we
Just
haven't
the honesty of
talked
it.
about anything other than what's going on in our lives.
Yeah, we'll go to the fourth.
Yeah, no need to gas us up anymore.
Yeah. So, how could the podcast be improved in the future? Like, obviously, there's the things that we shouldn't do, like flipping a quarter. But what are some things that we should do?
I was actually thinking about this, I think on the last one. I think it would be really interesting. First, I think Andy touched on it about stories, like especially his tuxedo story. I'm really curious about that.
He's been baiting that for a
Well,
while.
it's not a tuxedo, but
It's,
Well,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
It's the-
suit and tie, whatever. I think that's really funny. It'd be really interesting to hear. Probably like just about job failures, whatever. I could give you a ton of mine personally. Also, too, I think it would be interesting if you could get people on here that are underqualified for their job or maybe feel underqualified for their job. Because I think when I first started my job in February, I literally texted one of my friends and said, I'm not qualified for this. Like, I don't know why they hired me. I'm super underqualified, so it's very overwhelming. So I think that would be really interesting, too, just to hear other people. And it doesn't even have to be their job. Just, like, what are they underqualified to do that they're doing anyways because they just are.
I feel like we need to, before we bring anyone outside of our friend circle onto this podcast, we need to up the quality.
Yeah.
Because could you imagine like just sending a clip to a stranger and being like, hey, you want to come on this? But that is a good idea of going on not just our storytelling, but the storytelling of others
Yeah.
that matches the theme of the podcast.
Yeah, and when we take the time to like write out a good story and then share that, kind of like we're doing here, like it won't be rambling, it'll be purposeful, but it'll also be like creative and entertaining.
What do you think about segments? Like weekly segments that happen on a recurring basis?
Like each week would be a different segment?
No, like, so I was floating this idea to Caleb of, especially if we end up making it longer, just talking about the same thing for 30 to 40 minutes can be dull.
Yeah.
And it would be hard because Caleb's of the inclination, once we talk about something for like 15 minutes, he's like, okay, we're done. But like something, I haven't thought of any of them like in particular, but it'd be something like if we did a segment of what fascinated us this week. And
Yeah.
like I talk about something that was cool that I saw, Caleb talks about something cool. Like we can have like a story from the vault where we tell some embarrassing or funny story from our past. And then we move into talking about a topic that kind of like the episode we talked about the AI that like doesn't have anything to do with us.
No, I think that's a good idea. I think, I mean, you don't have to do something specific like this, but for example, one of my friends at the end of the day will ask each other, like, what was the best thing that happened to you today? And then we'll talk about that. And then after that, we'll be like, okay, well, what are you most thankful for today? Mm-hmm. So, like, you could do something like that, like whether it's at the beginning or the end of the podcast, like break it up of like each week at the end or the beginning, whichever you choose, you're going to have those either sets of questions you ask or whatever it is. That way it's like the same thing. But obviously your answers are going to change because you're not going to have the same favorite thing every single day, or you're not going to be thankful for the same thing every single day. It's going to change depending on what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's like reoccurring questions that we always ask each other at the end of the podcast as a signal of like this is the end of the podcast, but also we have like this quick tidbit, that'd be really cool. Like if we were to break it up like 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah, whether it's something at the end to wrap up or if it's something in the beginning to just like, because even if we write a script out, you can kind of just start by reading a script and not really be energetic about it. Mm-hmm. But if you have a time in the beginning where you get to talk about something that you're really excited about and really jazzed about, it could help us bring energy from the start.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. Because those questions would be the same, but it would be not redundant because we'd be getting to talk about something cool
right
every single week.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we can even have some of those real moments if someone's like, what was really exciting about this week? And we just go, actually, this week sucked. Yep. There wasn't much exciting. And then therapy podcast.
I'm all for it.
That's so funny.
Next question. Which, we already know the answer to this. Was the sound quality and production value of the podcast up to par?
I mean, up to par, I think, is a bit of a stretch, but...
Exactly.
It could do better, but I think, honestly, it could be worse. I really do.
Ooh,
like,
it could definitely be worse.
I remember, I think one of the first 2 episodes, Caleb may have asked me how the sound quality was. And I was like, I think it's fine. Like, I mean, what do you expect? You're holding a phone. I mean, it could be worse.
Thank you for holding your phone so close to your mouth, by the way.
You're welcome.
It's so
but
funny.
Yes, we've learned our lessons. We're no longer going to drive in a car and do a podcast.
Yeah, don't do that.
No longer going to flip a coin.
However, though, like, even though the audio quality of the car thing was bad, I do like the concept. Like, I like the concept of, like, you guys are going somewhere or doing something, and you're going to talk while you're going, if that makes sense. Or, like...
I think in theory that whole thing would have been better if we had real mics.
I think in order to do that, we need to also add visual. Because Caleb made some comment once. He's like, we should go rock climbing and talk. I was like, yes, so they can just hear our heavy breathing and falling to the ground. But something like, if you're able to see what's happening, it makes it a lot more entertaining than just being like, what is that sound?
Yeah, no, I agree.
The video podcast route.
Yeah, I mean, you just keep saying, what do you say, watching instead of listeners?
Yeah. And this actually, comparison will help us understand a little better. What are some other podcasts that you enjoy, and why do you enjoy them?
I listen to a couple. So the one I listen to weekly, most frequently, is Office Ladies. It's Angela Kinsey and Jenna Fisher. They both play characters on The Office.
Angela's name is Angela?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Wow.
Yeah, there's actually a couple like that in the show. I just like the show. I think it's a really funny show. I like them individually. I think they're really funny. And each week they'll take a episode of The Office, break it down, do like behind the scenes, all that fun stuff. Another one I listen to is 30 Minutes with the Perrys. It's Jackie Hill Perry and Preston Perry. They're a married couple. and they're both believers, so they'll talk about pretty much anything.
Everything and nothing in between.
Yes. Whether it's their past or questions people may have asked, and then sometimes they'll just do one episode on like a story of something that's happened in the past or something that at the time wasn't funny, but like in retrospect it's actually really funny. I really like them. I've actually benefited a lot from Jackie's just in general, so I like listening to them. And then the last one I used to listen to pretty consistently, and I don't anymore because they stopped. It's called Let's Talk. It's got Jackie on it, Melissa Kruger, and then Jasmine Holmes. So it's through the Gospel Coalition, and they talk about, everything that's like gospel based.
Is it like current events?
No, it's like taming the tongue,
Okay.
People dealing with anxiety, how to just, pretty much any like hard issue. They'll just sit around, talk about, there's 3 very different personalities within the group, 3 different ages. So I've enjoyed listening to it, but obviously they don't do it anymore. But yeah, that's why.
So it sounds like first one, you enjoy it because it's like nostalgia or
Yeah.
it's like something that you really like, and the other 2 just have high value and are entertaining and bring a lot of substance.
Yeah.
So then the question I particularly have is because it sounds like we're going to relate most to the first one. Mm-hmm. If we're going to do storytelling, the difference being that like the stories, the episodes of The
Yeah.
Office, and y'all don't know these stories. Is it just audio or is it visual too?
Office Ladies is just audio. 30 Minutes with the Perrys, they have visual. They have a YouTube channel. So, like, you can either watch it on YouTube or listen to it. I don't really watch it. And then the Let's Talk one, they were all, I'm pretty sure, audio, except their last episode they did at the Gospel Coalition, like, conference. So they filmed that. Other than that, it's all been audio.
So this might be something that we need to explore and do our research as we get better. How do the Office girls do a good job of like Office ladies? How the Office ladies do a good job of, because you're not watching the episode. Like obviously you have it in your brain, you've already seen it before, but how do they communicate so that you know what they're talking about? Do they provide really good context, or is it like if you know, you know?
Context. They also will, which this wouldn't apply to you guys, but they'll do time codes of like, oh yeah, at 15 minutes, 20 seconds, this happened. And if you go watch it, you can catch this person breaking in the background or this person's not in character, stuff like that. So, they are very good though at explaining it. Like and they kind of do theirs in segments too. So like the very beginning, typically Jenna, who plays Pam, she'll like talk about a summary of the episode they're listening to. Then she'll have like fast facts of the episode as a whole. And then they'll typically go to like a commercial break, and then they'll get into the episode. They go off on tangents too. So like they'll be talking about one thing and it can lead to something else, and they'll go off on a tangent, and then it's just funny though. Like their tangents are normally comical and just entertaining.
Which is what we aspire to be.
Yeah. And then, that's pretty much it. Like, other than, that's pretty much it. They'll just walk through the episode pretty much, like, in segments and talk about it, and that's it.
I like it. That helps, because the other 2 we can certainly learn from, especially the 30 Minutes with the Perrys. It sounds like that's storytelling. But the hard part to view there is we don't know how they're cutting it out. We don't know how they're being concise or where they're going on tangents. Versus that Office Ladies one, you can clearly see because they're both talking off the same shared material.
Well, definitely. 30 Minutes, they definitely do sometimes will go off on tangents, because there will be like 2 minutes of them just laughing at each other because they're they're married, so obviously, I don't know, they have a good time together and they like each other.
Inside jokes, shared rapport.
Yeah, and they're both, like, I think Jackie has a similar humor to me and Andy, and she's super sarcastic and just, I don't know, she's out there. And so he'll laugh at her, she'll laugh at him. So, like, they both kind of go off on tangents, but they're funny. So that's why I like listening to them.
Caleb, is this too much meta for you?
No, this is good.
We're in a podcast talking about how to do a better podcast by talking about how other podcasts structure their podcast.
Well, it's less meta. It's more just comparison.
So do none of y'all like listen to podcasts?
I listen to one podcast and that's it.
Yeah, I listen to like 2 maybe.
What do you listen
consistently though?
I'll do like every other week.
Interesting.
What do you listen to?
The Bragworthy Culture podcast.
Is that like a new thing for you?
No, I've listened. Dude, at the beginning of the podcast, remember
No,
that?
I mean like, I don't mean new like this last month, but like new this year or something.
Oh, yeah. Ever since like, it's new this year.
Was it on your LinkedIn kicked?
I found it through LinkedIn.
What's the other one?
It's a customer success podcast. I've listened to very little of it though.
Dude, you are all in on this LinkedIn job search world.
Learning and growing.
You are learning.
Okay,
Now we can't be
then
as
What about you?
What do you listen to?
Yeah.
The only one I listen to is the Bible Project podcast, which this past year I've been listening along as they basically do podcasts that go along with the reading plan.
No, I think I'm doing that with my mom this year, or I guess it'll be tomorrow.
They have 2 different apps now. They have the old one that
Bible
was like a
app.
Bible in a year, and then they have a new Bible Project app.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm doing that.
All right, we'll circle back offline to make sure that we're looking at the same one, because that would just be too chaotic for us to pull up the apps on our phone right now.
Very.
But yeah, they're hilarious. They're 2 nerds, and they go off on
incorrect.
tangents all the time.
But I do know what you're talking about. We're thinking of 2 different things. But I do know what
Okay.
you're talking about. Brittany, my sister, she has pulled up like videos that they have done of like explaining, a story of the Bible, and they're really good. Like I genuinely like listening to them.
It's John Collins and Tim Mackey, to give them a plug, out in Portland, Oregon.
So here's my question: why don't you listen to more so like you can get better insight of like how other people do it?
So we could definitely I asked those questions because what is going to best help us become better at this is reps, which we're doing, and observing others, seeing what's successful. And I think as far as we've gone to this point, we don't care about becoming like blowing up. We just care about doing something fun together. I don't know. I guess I can speak for myself there.
Yeah, this has just kind of evolved in a way. I mean, early on it was kind of a joke, and then second week we were like, okay, let's actually try to like just have a consistent schedule and do the reps. And then it was just last week that I got busted for my like inadequate answer really to that interviewer. And so now it's like, okay, seriously, how can we actually make this something that people want to listen to? But it's a good question, like listening to more. I think often it's like replace maybe music that I listen to and working out and listen to podcasts instead. I think for me, it's just finding the right podcasts and the right topics that I care about. I do tend to stay a little bit more away from like the comedy side of stuff. I just don't vibe with it very well. I love more of the business related stuff at the moment. Anyway.
Also, if I can expose myself, I don't like podcasts.
That's fair. Sometimes it's not for people. And that's
I don't
okay.
like my biggest issue. It's similar to when I say like I don't like reading books, but I don't like podcasts in general because of me. Like it's not you, it's me. It's a me problem. But because Caitlin gets so annoyed at this when I'm listening to the Bible Project podcast. I'll be driving or I'll be doing something, my mind will wander. And then all of a sudden, like 2 to 3 minutes later, I'm like, oh,
I'm the same way.
I didn't hear anything they just said. So I'm sure I could enjoy it more if I'm just willing to just let it go.
Yeah.
And just like, no, I'll miss things. No, things will stick out. But I think basically, I could generally say I don't like them, but what's more accurate is that I just need to be like more comfortable having some things like go past me and catching on other things.
I think it's actually a little bit like cerebral, because whenever you look at it, podcasts are all about like receiving information. Like you have very little interaction with, like you can't, unless you just follow them on Instagram or like LinkedIn or whatever and like try to comment about what they're doing, you can't interact with the podcasters at all. You don't see them either. So you're just literally listening. And how often do we just listen to people? Like it's super hard, at least for me, to be like, okay, I'm going to sit here for like 30 minutes and just listen to what these people have to say.
Actively listen.
Actively listen and care.
And I think that might be another reason why I like listening to this one and just podcasts in general. I find people very interesting. Like, and I mean, I find why they do the things that they do interesting. I don't know, just like their decisions, the way they were brought up, like their life just in general, I find it interesting. So like, for me, if you guys were to bring on some random person and just talk to them, I would find that interesting because I'm a deep thinker when it comes to that. So like, I like listening to people's stories and how they got to be who they are today. And especially like as believers, I love listening to testimonies. Like that's really interesting to me. So that might be another reason why I enjoy so much, just because I like listening to you guys and listening to the way you do things.
And in the vein of the new year, some people hate on resolutions. I like goals.
You do?
Yeah.
But
You hate on resolutions.
even better, I like habits or like disciplines that you're going to continue or improve upon. And like you're saying, listening is like a discipline or habit or goal that many people forsake because they want to be the center of the room or whatever it is. So I think it's a really, really cool idea there. I've basically saying, hey, I'm going to listen more to podcasts because I want to improve my listening ability. Cool.
I like it. Off script question, which I forgot to ask earlier. How's my hair look?
I think it looks great. I know Caleb did it.
Yep, there you go. There it is.
Caleb's gonna cut my hair.
I asked that question because it's not so much a compliment
Yeah,
to me.
when is your hair going to be cut?
I don't know. Probably sometime soon because it's been
Did you
a
say
while.
Caleb cuts your hair?
No, he's going to.
Interesting.
He's Googled and YouTubed how to cut women's hair.
This is even better than I thought it was going to be because I was just going to ask, not for a compliment to myself, but knowing anything you said goes directly to the man who's sitting here who cut my hair.
He cuts my dad's hair.
Yeah, that's how it started, right? You cut her dad's hair. Then I heard about it and I was like, I don't like paying for haircuts. You should cut my hair.
Well, and then apparently he asked, did you ask Hunter?
I don't know. I think he said he needed a haircut, and then I said I could do it for you right now, and he was like, "Oh, I've got to ask Kendall though."
So my husband, Hunter, he came home to me one day and was like, "Yeah, Caleb said something about maybe cutting my hair," and I was like, "Okay, do it." And he was like, "Really? You won't be upset?" Because I typically cut his hair. He's like, "You wouldn't be upset?" I'm like, no, I don't care. Like, if Caleb wants to cut your hair.
Caitlin's very similar to that. I didn't ask her if she'd be upset, but now that you cut my hair, I would ask Caitlin. During COVID, she cut my hair. No, during COVID, she wanted to cut my hair really bad. And I was like, no, it's COVID. Who cares? Just let me grow it out. And then I eventually got it cut by someone else. I don't know. Basically, she cut my hair once, and she didn't enjoy it. Basically, this whole time, she's like, I want to cut your hair. I want to cut your hair. I want to cut your hair. I put it off. As soon as she did it once, she's like, yeah, whatever. That's a chore. I don't want to do it anymore. So then I start getting my hair cut by you. And even before Caitlin cut my hair, I would have her clean up the back of my neck if it got really bad. Now she's so spoiled. Like, I'll ask her to clean up the back of my neck, and she's like, oh, can you just have Caleb do it? I'm like, what is happening? Like, you won't even trim the back of my neck now?
I enjoy it. I think it's art. I was telling him that earlier. I said this is art.
By the way, you kept telling me it was an art in the middle of you more or less having a panic attack because Caleb tried a new way of cutting hair on my head and just decided to cut from the back to the front. And I was sitting in the chair for about 15 minutes for Caleb going, oh no, what have I done? Oh my goodness. Oh man, this is big. Your hair is weird. What's going on?
It's funny.
Oh well.
All the while, I didn't have a mirror, so I have no clue what this guy's doing.
It's art.
That was a good tangent.
It was good. Where should we go from now? We're looking at the notes. I might cut this out.
We don't really need to ask her about the favorite moments unless there's a particular moment that sticks out.
I don't think so.
Are we going to conclude this?
So I think we can reverse the order because the last question is basically what's the most embarrassing thing I did? What's the most embarrassing thing you did? Mm-hmm. And if we put yours second, we can just roll into your story from yesterday.
Oh, that's true. Okay. Can you think of any? Well, so the real question is, can you think of any? And would you mind sharing? When did Andy embarrass himself the most on this podcast? It's a super interesting question. I think I could think of some stuff, but we want to see if our listeners have the keen ability.
Listener.
Listener.
I don't think so.
Big win. Flawless. Huge.
Wow.
I mean, I can't think of anything. I'm not the kind of person, well, no, that's not always true. I typically try not to, like, point out all of the wrong things. So, like, I'm just trying to enjoy it and listen to it. So I don't, like,
She says
unless
that.
it's with the coin. But I have,
It's the coin.
She
people.
says that, and the only thing she's pointing out is negative about you. Big what? No.
no, it's because, like, I'm really sensitive to certain noises. So, like, that's why I picked yours up. Is because the second you did it, I was like, oh, that's not right.
So it's not who you are, it's just your coin.
Yeah, it's 100% just the coin, not you. But the fact that you
Hey,
continually
you know what?
flipped it.
You live and learn.
Which, by the
whole
way,
time.
want to circle back. You said you can think of some things that were embarrassing that I
Yeah,
did?
please,
Yeah,
let's
just
discuss.
Just some really like just vocabulary,
You're yucking this up right now.
English, like
What?
I just remember I can't remember it exactly, but
Is it the one you're talking about? The one from last episode?
Okay, I will say it's not embarrassment. I kind of told you this too at lunch. I don't like when you guys like talk out loud of like what you're going to do. Like, okay,
She's
and
talking
now
about the
we're
meta.
going into this
the
next
meta.
segment.
No, the meta.
I
No,
agree.
I don't
I'm with
like
her.
it.
Don't
Because,
attack the meta.
That
Down with the meta.
part to me can just be clipped.
yeah,
Like
I
it does.
agree.
It's unnecessary.
Hey,
Maybe-
blame our
I
editor
think all
for
of
not
this is going to be
clipping
clipped.
Yeah, I don't need to know you're going into a new segment. Like, obviously, when I hear you talk about it, I'm going to know you're in a
Well,
new
you know
segment,
what?
not like, oh, okay, here we go. Here's our new segment coming up.
So we play this up as the meta, but I just want you to know that happens because what you experienced right when we sat down. We sat down, Caleb sent you the document that had all the questions on it, and before you had 10 seconds to look at it, he said, all right, you ready? And he went to press record. And that's why there's so many moments where it's like, we're doing this next? No. What?
Which,
This?
and that's fine, but, like, you can cut that out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll
Caleb.
just be we need our editor.
So, like, obviously,
to
you're
work
going
on
to
that.
have these moments of, like, all right, where do we go from here? But, like, just cut it out, man.
Yeah, okay, I'll work on it.
Yeah, put more work
Again.
on Caleb's plate.
Well, she said that she was going to edit for free.
What?
Did I ever
No,
say
that no,
Yep.
that did not happen. I'm gonna defend her on that one.
Did that ever
Um,
come out of my mouth?
We talked about this earlier today. The moment last episode
Yeah,
where
that.
you said you need to let me know if Rachel listens. I responded and said, "Yeah, me too." Unironically.
Yeah, there's just
and I was
like
trying to
weird
say,
things like
yes,
that.
I need to find out from Caitlin, who's texting her, whether or not she
Yeah.
listened, and then I would share it. That was fun. Basically, whenever I look back, we do not enunciate clearly. I don't know how to get better at that. Probably just to slow down, take some time, maybe plan it out
When you
more.
say we,
oh, it's we.
I
I'm the
don't
one,
know.
hey, hold on.
I
I'm the
feel
one.
I feel okay with my
I'm
pronunciation.
the one who actually goes back and listens to.
Yeah,
Oof.
but I
all
have to
the
edit
episodes.
it. Let's ask our listener.
What?
How is our enunciation?
See, I don't pay attention to that. Like, if you call things out,
We need
now
a
I'll go
critic.
back and listen.
We have
and
a
be like,
fan. We need a critic.
yeah, I mean, I'll critique, but like, I don't notice, like, I don't think of those things to listen for. So like, with the whole audio thing, I don't think to hear, oh, how's this audio going? Like, that doesn't cross my mind. But if you come to me and say, hey, how's the audio? Next time, I'm going to be like, okay, obviously audio is an issue for them, so now I'm going to listen for
Yeah.
it. So
Well,
now
let us
I
know.
will listen for
Let us know in the next one. How about
Yeah.
that?
I think the biggest thing is that everything you talked about, because you know us well, because we're friends outside of this, you're willing to like
look over it.
look over it,
Yeah.
or you're not thinking about it. You're like, oh, who cares what the like? But
Yeah.
I think if the audio is bad for like those other podcasts that you listen to, you'd be like, oh, like
Yeah,
there'd be more.
That might be
friction
fair.
there.
Yeah, that's
I agree.
possible.
Like you have a lower bar of expectation because you know we're just recording off our phones while we're driving to Pam's house. What, you like the babbling brook in the background?
Well, I was about to put in the plug, but I keep getting too excited for the plug.
Can you think of anything that you've done that's embarrassing other than the coin?
No, I mean like the coin definitely was bad.
The commercial.
Some of the editing was bad. Yeah, there's just like that commercial that just
That
it's
one
just
time you
bad.
said Kami wasn't a savant, which I accidentally set you up for.
Yeah, just small things here and there that I regret, but it
You
is
move
what
on?
it is.
So now that you're apparently embarrassed of nothing that's happened on the podcast, do you want to talk about probably the most embarrassing moment of your entire Definitely it's your entire year. The question is, since you moved to North Carolina, is this the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened?
It was bad.
But people who don't know Caleb
They
need
don't
to
know
know
that, though.
you. No, oh no, they do.
No, they don't.
For the people that know you will think it's funny, but like for the people that don't know Caleb, you get embarrassed very easily, and that's why it's so fun to mess with you.
Caleb is like rolling his eyes, dying on the inside as you
I
say
was
that.
hoping we would just kind of gloss over this and then move on. I really thought I could just start saying what the conclusion here is and dodge it.
No, I think you
absolutely
should
not.
just quickly explain.
Okay,
And
Andy, explain this from your point of view.
Yes, basically you'll have to add the emotion because I won't be able to convey why you felt so miserable.
Guys, just go back to the GIFs
Conversation
episode.
Yes.
That explains it all.
No,
And then go.
that doesn't explain it all.
No,
So
like that it does.
okay,
I don't like GIFs, and it makes me feel embarrassed. I don't know why.
But I also feel like you don't like when a lot of the attention, especially when there's a bunch of people in the room, you don't like it being on you.
Yeah, I don't want the attention.
For like unnecessary reasons.
There's no need to have the attention on it. Like, come on.
Next, live in it, thrive. So this is what happened. As many of you know, and by many of you, Caleb's mom, Kendall, and anyone else who listens to this, Caleb and I both don't love receiving gifts. There's the baseline. But for whatever reason, Caleb reacts very strongly, positively or negative, to everything in his life, and specifically when he gets gifts. He either loves a gift or is very uncomfortable.
And it's not because I'm not grateful. I am grateful. I say thank you. And I appreciate the gifts.
Yes. So, Caleb leaves for Christmas to go to Texas, to the homeland, to spend it with his side of the family. And Caitlin and I spend Christmas with Caitlin's side of the family. So, everyone's together. And I brought up the fact that for one of the Christmas parties that Caleb and I went to on Caitlin's dad's side of the family, neither of us got gifts. And that was huge. We both loved it. Best Christmas
I
party
literally
ever.
looked at Andy and said, I'm so happy I didn't get a gift. Yay.
But with more enthusiasm.
Like, yeah.
Probably not
I
much
was
more.
grinning ear to ear on the way out.
Yes. And so that happens. And then later that day, when we're with Caitlin's mom's side of the family, we were having conversation, and I talked about how Caleb and I didn't receive gifts. And I said, that's probably the happiest I've ever seen Caleb. Especially in December. It was just such a delight for the two of us.
Again, I'm not a Scrooge. it's just
Didn't
embarrassing.
you literally tell me, though, in a text, you were a Scrooge?
No, context matters.
Okay.
Next.
So you're already getting uncomfortable right now just talking about this.
Yes, keep going.
So when I bring that up, I wasn't bringing it up. I wasn't prying. I wasn't doing what I normally do where I like throw you under the bus because it's funny. And so I just bring that up. And then Caitlin's grandma, referred to as Momo, goes, oh, well, then we should really get Caleb a lot of gifts to make up for that. Because she's just a prankster. There are many stories of her getting both Caitlin's dad and Caitlin's uncle ridiculous gag gifts over the years. And so I think this sparked a light in her. And so, of course, she says that, and then everyone starts getting excited and is like, oh, yeah, like, what can we do? This would be so cool. And I will say I stepped in for you both as to, like, this is going to be hilarious when we gag you, but I also need to make sure that when the gag is over, you actually enjoy the gifts you have. Because if we got you something that you hated, like this, like you probably wouldn't be here today.
You know how
been
embarrassing that would be for me?
You would have been like, I'm taking a week off. I'm not seeing
If
anyone.
it was like, anyway, tell your story.
By the way, I just moved my leg in this chair and it might have sounded like in the audio that I farted, but I just need to clarify that this is the squeaky chair that I was sitting in episode, 6 and 7? So.
I think, too, another wonderful thing is if you did do video, you could see how often Caleb just, like, squirms of, like, this is uncomfortable.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
and
like
squints.
This. Yeah.
I don't sit in that chair very long.
So then to keep going. So, yeah, I made sure that you were going to at least enjoy the gift because they were throwing out a bunch of other stuff, like certain ideas. And we also had, like, a short turnaround. This was Christmas Eve, and we were going to have our, quote-unquote Christmas gift giving 6 days later. And I knew there was only one thing that would make you happy. And I was like, apartment 9, V-necks, medium. And
It is funny. I mean,
And so Andy had already, which Caitlin's uncle's name is Andy, so don't let that be confusing. I'm not talking about myself in the third person. Andy had you or got you in the Secret Santa. And it turns out he didn't get you. You had those V-necks on your list, but he got you other gifts that were on your list. So it was perfect. We're like, we're all going to buy a t-shirt. And so Andy is going to give his gift to Caleb. And then we're going to go around the room and slowly each take turns handing him a t-shirt, all in different packaging.
and that attention was just so uncomfortable. So Andy gave me his gifts, and then Debbie like stood up and gave me a package, and I was like, but you don't have me. Like there's
a mistake.
I was like, something's wrong here. And she just was like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, whoever did the list, they got it wrong. Like the Christmas Secret Santa deal.
Which, yeah, at that point that was the first time you blamed McCamey. Or
and at that point, I was like, whoever did this, like, you're wrong. I opened it because, of course, I'm not just going to leave it unopened. I honestly just assumed that they messed up or they got like a different gift. Like it was Andy's gift. I don't really know. But I got the t-shirt and I was like, oh, that's nice of you. Thank you for the shirt. I was like, why did you get this?
Were you confused that there was just one shirt?
Well, yeah, because we had a $100 limit. I was like, if you're going to do that, you need to get like 20 shirts.
I turned to you and I said, it was a $100 limit. Doesn't mean you have to go up there.
Yeah, I was like, okay. So then Ben gets up and gives me the shirt, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. This is not cool. Guys, you need to stop. Like, whatever's happening here needs to stop. And I said, McCamey, you did something wrong. Someone... And it just kept going. I mean, it just kept going. I got like 8 shirts out of it. And everyone in the circle.
Well, the best was when we were coming up with the idea for this when you weren't there, someone was like, should we tell Kami? And immediately the rest of the room was like, absolutely not. Like, it's not that she would accidentally slip the secret to you, but this is just going to be better if she knows nothing. Yeah. Preserve her innocence. Because then if you found out she knew, then you'd be all ill about that as well.
I'm pretty sure... In the past, you could have my embarrassment level would be like super high if you made like a crass joke or something like that. I'd be like super embarrassed. Now I'm fairly confident. Gifts make me feel incredibly uncomfortable and like embarrassed. I don't know why. It's just that is, if you want to embarrass me, give me a gift and give it to me in like a place where like at church in front of everyone.
Which is funny because you like giving gifts.
I love giving gifts. I think it's an art. I think there's ways you can give gifts that are just really
How many
cool.
times have you said today it's an art?
I don't know. It's on my mind. Anyway,
so all this happened. So Andy gave you his gift, then Debbie, and then Ben. And then you thought it was over because Kami was next in line. And right as Kami was about to stand up, I said, hey, Caitlin, don't you have a gift as well? Yep. And Caitlin stood up and gave Caleb a gift, which was another shirt. And then I walked across the room without, like, as Caitlin was handing her your gift, I just started walking across the room to get my gift and Pam's gift because she was sitting down holding Lily. And I had the most unnecessarily big bag, like probably the biggest Christmas gift bag you can get. And I just filled it with boxes and newspaper and wrapping paper just for one little t-shirt. And then Pam wrapped hers in a box. And then Mama ended up going, like, it was great. And then Mama, the originator of this prank, then after we'd given you all our t-shirts, walks off, brings 2 more gifts in, walks over to Caleb, and she goes, oh, don't worry, Caleb, these aren't for you. And then she walks to the other side of the room to give the gifts to who they're actually for.
Because she was approaching me like round 10 and 11. Like, here's your 10th and 11th gift here. Oh, it was so bad.
You were ill. At a certain point, I think around the point where I was giving you my gift or my shirt, you started saying out loud, like, I'm not opening anymore. This is done. This is not happening.
Yeah. It got heated. And I was red. I could feel the redness. It was bad.
Today you're wearing one of the shirts.
I am. Viva Magenta Pantone Color 2023. Let's go.
Mauve.
No.
It's mauve.
Viva Magenta, everyone.
Also, in this
Happy
build-up, Pam and I just spent about like 20 to 30 minutes on Christmas Eve going on Kohl's website, trying to pick out the right shirts for you.
Well, this seems like a good place to go ahead and say thank you all.
See, this is what happened. I'm not done, and Caleb just tries to do a
We're at minute 50.
Oh, we're having a great time, Caleb. Next time you go into the links, you can put this episode in. It'll be great.
Did you just refer to LinkedIn as the links?
No, I refer to golf as the
Oh.
links.
Yeah, I was like,
Which we can make it a thing. I can refer to LinkedIn as the links, golf as the links.
I call it the link, but
Oh my goodness.
um,
No, I had one more thought that I just need to, which I've probably forgotten already at this point. But, that's it. Just to sum up, Caleb, now you no longer have to pester our listeners to buy you medium apartment 9 V-necks. Because, what do you have, 20 now?
yeah, I have like 20 of the same cut of shirt.
All right.
It's beautiful.
So just know,
so nice.
when Caleb shamelessly tries to take your money, it's not going to be for t-shirts anymore.
Okay, here we go. Watch this. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Underqualified Thoughts. We really do hope that you found our critique and other things both to be insightful and hopefully informative. So, as we do move forward, we're going to definitely take this feedback and improve it. We're trying to refine it. And so, speaking about money, we are excited to announce that we are going to be getting new microphones, and we'll be writing the next season of Underqualified Thoughts, which is going to be released in mid-January. So if you do want to donate for
No.
the purpose of
embarrassing.
microphones,
Nope.
let me know.
We have the Christmas money is in hand. We do not need any more money.
Okay. We appreciate your support. I'm clearly reading this now off of our notes.
You've been doing it for a while. Also, I mean, you got to look Kendall in the face and thank her for coming on.
Oh, Kendall, thank you so much for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
We look forward to having you again in the future.
Love it.
I think
wow.
it'd be good. I'm
Wow.
extending it. I'm extending the offer.
I'm so honored.
And until next time, everyone,
Bye.
goodbye.
Bye.
I'm ready. Let's pot it out.